So let me introduce Isa and John for Teams app development with dotnet. So hello, Isa and John.
Hi, Justin.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. So I'm really excited to see the dotnet application for the Teams app development. So whenever you are ready, we are good to go. So over to you.
Great. Thanks, Justin. Hello, everyone. We're here to talk about Teams development. I'm John. I'm a product manager, and I'm working on some fun stuff to help make development easier for you building for Teams. So we'll talk a little bit about what Teams Toolkit is and the tools we're building for developers. And then Aicha will talk about building some AI, generative AI bots for Teams. Let me switch over here to my PowerPoint and just give you a quick overview of what we have in store here for Teams. So yeah, we already kind of talked about the agenda, so we'll skip that. And for some reason, the slides are fighting me. I don't know why that's... There we go. All right, so Teams Toolkit. If you aren't familiar with that, Teams Toolkit is a couple different things, but primarily it is extensions for VS and for VS Code, and also a CLI tool. And it gives you a good way to get started with Teams app development. And if you're not familiar, you can develop apps for Teams. And what that means is you can extend different surfaces inside of Teams. So if you want to create your own bots inside of Teams, or you want to embed your own web UIs inside of Teams, there's a bunch of different extensibility areas that you can customize, and that's all done through apps. And the Teams Toolkit helps you get started with project templates like you would expect inside of Visual Studio. So we have a bunch of different templates. You can see in the screenshot here, we have some for what we call notification bots and command bots, workflow bots, all kind of different ways to create bots depending on what you want to build. And you can customize any of these however you want, but they help you get started, depending on what you want to do. We also have a lot of automatic registration and all the setup, so you don't have to bounce back and forth between a bunch of different portals to set these things up. There are some configuration that's needed, but the toolkit helps automate that for you, but gives you the flexibility to customize that when you get a little deeper into it, or you need to do something totally custom. We also give you smart defaults for hosting inside of Azure. So Teams Toolkit comes with a provisioning and deployment using bicep files for Azure by default. That's optional. You don't have to use that, but the toolkit is set up in our templates to have that. And also in VS, we support dotnet. Last year, we talked about Teams Toolkit as well. Well, this year, we have some new things, and I'll show those in a minute. One, we have a bunch of new templates, and we also support dev tunnels now. So for debugging bots inside of Teams, you do need to create some kind of tunnel to route back to your local machine so you can hit your breakpoints, stuff like that. And we have that all integrated now with dev tunnels inside of VS. So that lets you create tunnels however you want. And then the toolkit will automatically use those and configure them on your bot. So you don't have to jump between portals and change your endpoints and all that stuff with any tunnels that you were running before. It's all integrated into VS now. And then we have a whole new way to customize what provision does. So that's all that automatic registration. We have a whole new way to customize that. And really we're listening to the feedback we got since last year on, hey, what the heck is the toolkit doing? And how do I customize it when I need to do something different? So we have a whole new way to do that. And I'll show you that in a minute. And yeah, let's just jump over to that. That's all the slides I have on that. So let me bring Visual Studio over, and I will show you. Let me close this for now. So I've just created a new project. There's a template when you install the toolkit. It's called a Teams app, and it gives you a couple different options like you saw on the screenshot. This is the Echo bot template, so it's probably our simplest template. Just gives you a bot inside of Teams that when you talk to it, it replies back to you, and it uses the bot framework, and we set all that up. So this is an ASP.NET Web API project, and then we've added a couple things in here so it works with the toolkit. So just configures bot framework like all the bot framework samples do. And what we add in the toolkit is a couple extra things. So there's an app package folder. There is an environments folder. This is the infra is all the bicep templates, which you optionally can use. And then we also have these 2 YAML files. I think most interestingly here, are the YAML files. So there's 2. One is .local and one is not. .local is a way for you to customize what the toolkit does when you're running and debugging inside of VS. It's kind of what we call your local environment, and that pairs with environment files. And so this is a way for you to customize all the registrations and setup that are needed for Teams apps across the Teams developer portal and sometimes the Azure portal, depending on what you're doing. And then it's kind of like a GitHub Actions or Azure Pipeline file, gives you a bunch of different actions so you can express what the toolkit does. And so we have kind of a life cycle step. So before you start debugging, you have to provision these kind of cloud resources, which are kind of app registry, like get an app ID from the Teams platform. And if you're doing a bot, you also need a bot registration. They need Azure AD apps. There's a bunch of different stuff. Typically, you'd have to jump back and forth between a bunch of different portals and configure all that stuff and somehow save that locally for development. And then also versus if you weren't doing local development, if you want to deploy this thing, maybe in a staging environment or even into production, you need a whole nother set of IDs and things for that. So that's what the environment variables are for. So that's all the environment variables are for customizing what the tooling is doing. You can use app settings.json for your runtime stuff, as you would expect for .NET apps. So taking a look at this, we have one step in here we call provision. And we have a bunch of different actions. So these are kind of like task runners for automating what the toolkit does. And they're tuned for like the things that you would want to do inside of Teams. Like the first one here is, hey, I need to create a Teams app. So let me go and register that. You could go to the developer portal, Teams developer portal, could create that ID, and then come back here and save it how you want. That's what this does. So you have this first action here, gives it my app a name, and then saves the output to an environment variable called Teams app ID. And we kind of go down through this list. So for this project, we have it all set up because it's part of the project template. We need a Teams app. We need an Azure AD app for the bot. And the 2 things we really need from there are the bot ID or the client ID, and then also the client secret for this. So that's saved into the environment files. And kind of have some other actions here for a bot framework registration. And here's where our messaging endpoint gets set up for the bot. So the bot knows how to communicate. And this is where the toolkit can help, because this endpoint would need to be dynamic if you were running a tunnel or at least updated to your permanent tunnel address. The toolkit will take care of that. So I've already selected, so I created a tunnel for this called netconf, and that will basically be my bot endpoint when I start debugging. And we have some other helper things in here, like if you want to validate the manifest, so you can do like schema checks on your manifest, and the manifest is in the app package folder. That's how you express how you want to extend the Teams platform. It's basically what a Teams app is. It's just a JSON file. And what else do we have here? Basically to update our manifest. So if I make any changes to my manifest, we need to let the Teams developer portal know that happened. So you don't have to manually do that. You can use this action. And then we have a helper thing here to update my app settings JSON file. So I can kind of use the toolkit with the stuff I would be normally familiar with in .NET with the app settings.json. I want to copy some of those values over. This one updates the launch profile. There's another one up here at the top, I think, that puts the client secret and the client ID in the JSON file as well, because those are things I want to access at runtime for this project. We have another file here that you can customize a little differently. Maybe you want to, I think the big thing here is when you're not doing local development, you want to actually deploy these things in Azure. So I want to create like an Azure app service and host this somewhere. I want to create an Azure bot service and host this somewhere. I'm not doing it locally anymore. So there's an ARM deploy in here, and that reads the bicep files. And we've set up the bicep files to work for this project. And I've already done this. But what you do is you get a menu here for Teams Toolkit, and you get a couple options. The main one to run all these actions inside the YAML file for the local one. Once you're happy with it, and the defaults are fine for getting started, you just hit Prepare Teams App Dependencies, and you can choose your Microsoft 365 account, like the tenant where you want to run this. If you don't have permission to sideload apps or upload custom apps in your tenant, then you can click this link and sign up for a free developer program account, and you'll get your own sandboxed environment. That's what I have set here. You hit continue, and it'll go through all these steps, and you'll see a bunch of output of what it's doing and where it's putting them. And then everything basically gets saved in this environment file. So you can see, here's my app ID that got created by the toolkit. It saves it in here. So same for my tenant. Here's the client ID for the Azure AD app for the bot that was created. And then some helper things for my environment. And here's my tunnel URL. So if I were to change my tunnel and then run this command again, then this would get updated for me, and I don't have to go into bot framework or into the Azure bot service and update that messaging endpoint. I can just use the toolkit to automate that. Let's see, what else is in here? I think that's pretty much it for what the toolkit does. Oh, I guess if you want to, by default, what we do is we have a setting in here for launching, just opens the browser. So it will launch directly to Teams, and it's basically a deep link. So it'll put in your app ID and some query parameters here for launching it, installing it, so it opens in a browser. And you don't have to do this. You can, we have it here commented, but you can just run your normal Kestrel server or whatever the default target is, and then just switch over to the Teams desktop client and open your app. The only time you really need to maybe do this is if you want to install the app if you haven't done it already. But anytime the manifest is updated, we have another command for that if you want to make that easier. So you can just update the manifest in the developer portal. Add authentication code as a way to help scaffold out code for adding SSO to your Teams apps. And then provision and deploy map to these steps inside of the YAML file. So provision, and then there's another step in this one for deploy. So we've separated those out. When it's not local, we figured it's more common for developers to want to run these things in a CLI or CI/CD environment. So you can use the CLI to do the same thing. So if you want to do it from VS, you have the option. You can provision deploy. It's very similar to like right-click publish in VS. It just uses our infrastructure and our CLI tool. But you could also set this up in a CI/CD and just run, I think CLI is the TeamsFX CLI. So you can run TeamsFX provision, and it'll run through these same things. Preview in Teams will open your browser to your app, and the zip app package is just an easy way to create the zip file for the app package and also use these environments variables. So if you take a look at the manifest, another thing that the toolkit does with the environment files, if you want to have a local setup and a remote setup, then it's very easy to use one manifest file and use these replacement variables. So here you can see I have Teams app ID that maps back to this environment variable. So Teams app ID. And if I have a dev environment, I create another environment here called dev. I haven't provisioned it yet, so there's no app ID, but I could put one here. And then I have just one manifest file, and you can do that for any value in here. Here the name is changed. So if I run this as local, then my app will show up as .NET App 03-local, so I know I'm running my local app inside a team, so I know where I'm hitting. And yeah, so that gives you a quick way to do that. And I think that's pretty much it. So we can go ahead and launch this. Wait for that to run. And I think that's pretty much it for the toolkit. It gives you, like I said, it gives you a quick way to give you some different project templates. You can create different types of bots. You can create embedded web sites inside of Teams as tabs. And our project template scaffolds a Blazor server project with the Blazor Fluent UI components that you can run as a tab inside of Teams. We also have support in the 17.9 preview. We have support for running API-based message extensions as well. So here's my Teams browser launching. This is my developer tenant. So it's basically that deep link. You get this add dialog. You can add your app. And I think the Echo bot, I think, just replies whatever you say, which is very similar to the Echo bot template for bot framework if you've ever used that. And then over in VS, in our bot, yeah, here's the code for the bot. It's very simple. You can set breakpoints in here as you would expect and kind of debug through this. Let me see where Teams went. Well, it doesn't look like my bot's running yet. So we'll figure that out.
Always
Maybe
happens in the live demo.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll figure it out while you're showing how to make generative AI apps. Then maybe we can jump back to it.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's all I have for the toolkit. So Aicha, do you want to show everyone how to build AI stuff?
Yeah, of course. We have a lot of exciting stuff about Teams Toolkit. We definitely want everyone to try out and let us know about their experience. And there's one more new thing we want to talk through, which is the Teams AI library we are announcing. And Teams AI library goes pretty well with Teams Toolkit because they're all helping you to create awesome, smart apps for Microsoft Teams. And Teams AI library will be available in November 30th, currently available in preview on GitHub registry, and it will be available by November 30th in NuGet as well. Let me quickly tell you what this new library does. Teams AI library is actually team-centric interface to GPT-based language models. That means that if you want to build a Teams bot, Teams app, then you can easily bring large language models into your apps without doing much work behind the scenes. And it provides simple capability-driven approach. So in this case, if you use Visual Studio to build your Teams app by using just some of the templates, you can bring this library in to integrate some of the LLM components, such as prompts, and you can design your app the way you want. And your app will be leveraging LLM without doing much of work in the backend. So we have three main building blocks for this library. The first one is application. It mainly replaces the activity handler class in bot framework. So wherever we have the activity handler, usually it's in Teams bot.cs. We need to rename that as application so we can leverage all the AI goodies. And second, we have turn state, which stores all of the temp, conversation, and user state. And finally, we have AI module, which is the most important one, which brings all the LLM components in. And inside the AI module, we have components, prompts, actions, and chains. I'll quickly show you how we can use all this in a very basic format in my demo. And in this demo, we will create Clippy with dotnet. I know it's very traditional for us to build Clippy, but when it comes to AI, when it comes to Teams and .NET, I think Clippy is the natural characteristic choice for our demo. So in this demo, what we're going to do is we will use Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio to build an app from scratch. And then we will use one of the templates in Teams Toolkit. We will prepare our app, and then we will add the new Teams AI library in. And we will run the app and see how easy it is to integrate Clippy characteristic with Teams AI library. So we will bring LLM using this new library. Okay, let's start. So I'm in Visual Studio 2022, and I will create a new Teams app. Here we can call it Clippy on .NET. And we can choose chat command. This will bring us one command only. It's a very simple template to get started. And just like John showed us, let's create our tunnel first. We can create a tunnel and we can give any name, for example, Clippy tunnel, and then we can choose the access. You can choose organizational. This time I'll just choose public. And then let's prepare our app. You right-click to Teams Toolkit. You can just prepare the dependencies for our app, and we are ready to go. Let's start with the app settings. Here we need to add our OpenAI keys. We're using Azure OpenAI here. And then we will also need to add the config for Azure keys as well. Okay. Once we add the Azure config options, we just need to go to NuGet Package Manager and then install the package. It's available on GitHub at the moment. It will come to NuGet in November 30th. We can just install it from GitHub. Okay, we're pretty much good to go with our code. Let's check the dependencies. Okay, it's here. Now we can just go to Program CS and start with our code for Clippy. I'll start with the storage. Let's start by adding the memory storage. And then we will add our planner. And planner will keep all of the Azure OpenAI key, model, and the endpoint. And after that, we will add the content moderator. This is for our moderator, and this will keep Azure Content Safety key, endpoint, and everything. Finally, we will just go to our bot, and then we will add the following details: logger factory, prompt manager, planner, and moderator. These are our components to create our application. And I will create application options. And application options will have all the details about our AI components. Obviously, the first thing I will create is AI. And AI will have all the details about our components. So here we'll say moderator equals to moderator. Then prompt will be the chat folder. We will create this in the next step. And then we will have history, and we will keep history type as history options, history type, text. Okay. Next, we will add storage. We will use storage that we just created, memory storage, but you can use any other storage. This is just for the demo purpose. And then we will add logger factory. We're good to go. So as I mentioned earlier, after returning this app, this is going to be the new Teams AI bot with the application options that includes AI module. We need to create the prompt. So I will create a folder called prompts. Let's call it prompts. And we define here as chat in our AI component. So let's call the same as chat. And then I will add a JSON file for our Teams AI library. This is going to have all the settings about our AI library. So this will carry the settings for Clippy. And we will have one more file here. It's going to be a text file. And this text file will have all the prompts about Clippy. So let's rename it as SK prompt. And we can paste all of the prompts here, your Clippy, your fun, and all the details about Clippy, like how it loves Microsoft products and so on. And finally, let's go to Teams bot, and we will need to change Teams activity handler to application, as I mentioned earlier. And here we need to add on message activity async. This will keep the history, conversation history, and it will use the chat in the chain async. And after that, we will just create action. You can create any actions you want. For this example, I will use flagged input action name. That means that if user says something wrong, we will just flag it as, I'm sorry, your message was flagged. You can add a bunch of other actions if you want. And finally, we will just create Teams bot with the new AI options. Okay, options, and here we just need to define AI.import actions, new Teams bot options. We're good to go. Let's run the app. And this will initiate Teams. And now, once I add this in the chat, I should straight away see the Clippy characteristic in the bot. I'll say hi. And there we go. Hi, I'm Clippy. I'll ask, I need to prepare a presentation for my customer meeting. And there you go. Clippy suggests PowerPoint, and it also gives me some jokes. We can ask, what if I need to show some statistics? Then obviously assuming Excel, and we have some jokes at the end as well. Let's ask something different. Why do you love Microsoft products so much? And let's see. Okay, it's like they're always updating themselves just like Windows operating system. It's definitely Clippy. And finally, I'll just ask, I heard you love jokes and Microsoft products equally. Let's see what it says. Yes, if you ever need a good laugh or some help with Microsoft products, obviously you should go to Clippy. That's all I want to show in this demo. And we have some more coming in the upcoming updates and also in this version as well. John, would you like to give some details about what's coming?
Sure. Thanks, Akshay. So what's next for the toolkit? In 17.9, you can download preview 1 now, I think. We have some new templates in there. One of the highlights is there are the API message extensions, and we're starting to roll out support for extending Copilot as well. And you can also get the latest updates for the Blazor project. So our tab project will be updating the Blazor stuff to .NET 8 and just fixing up those templates. Right now, in 17.8, they scaffold kind of .NET 6 versions. We'll have project templates for a lot of the Teams AI SDK stuff, and that's some of what I just showed you there. So we'll have some new templates that get you started with that a little quicker. And we'll have a previewer for adaptive cards. So a lot of experience inside of Teams show adaptive cards inside of the messages. And so we'll have a live preview inside of VS. So as you're editing that JSON and templating it, makes it a little easier to see what exactly it's going to look like inside of Teams. So we have a way to render that as accurately as possible next to what Teams looks like. So you can kind of more easily design those without actually running it inside of your app. We're also working on simplifying bot debugging. So we're starting to roll out a preview in there as well on being able to run and debug bots without even having an M365 account. So if you work in a really constrained environment where you may not have permissions to do any of that stuff, this could be a good solution for you to at least get started. Beyond that, working on better solution for larger or more solutions for larger app solutions. So right now, if you have a bunch of different projects, it can be kind of cumbersome to like, where do you put these YAML files and what about env files next to app settings? We know that can be confusing, and so we're hearing your feedback on that. So we're working on support to change that, to make the toolkit a little nicer to work with in large .NET solutions. Also, be able to work in the C# Dev Kit and VS Code, so you can take advantage of the toolkit anywhere. But we also have our toolkit available in VS Code, but it focuses on TypeScript and JavaScript right now. And listening to more of your feedback, better support for migrating existing projects or using any template. So you don't have to start with our templates if you don't want to. If there's another really cool .NET template that you want to start with, that would be a good implementation for whatever your app does. But you also want to benefit from the automation and some of the support that the toolkit has. Being able to mix those things together is a little too challenging right now. So work on improving that. And then we have a lot more stuff coming that, stay tuned, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But also, we post this stuff on the blog a lot, and Aisha and team are always very active on YouTube and on Twitter. So we're happy to share as much as we can. So hopefully you'll learn something, and that's all I have. So there's a couple resources we can share.
Yes.
You want to go to the next slide, Aisha?
Yes. So we have a bunch of documentation links we can share with you. We have the Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio docs. We have the GitHub repo. GitHub repo mainly covers the JavaScript, but I think if you have any issues with .NET, we can also create an issue there, right, John, when we have issues with .NET?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. So we also have awesome samples available in the Teams Toolkit samples gallery. If you want to explore more what is available, what kind of scenarios you can check out, and you can actually submit your sample today, right? That's what I heard.
Yes, you can. Would love to get samples.
Definitely. If you have awesome samples you want to show in the samples gallery, definitely go ahead and submit. And we have finally Teams AI Library GitHub. There are a bunch of samples there with Teams AI Library too. Go ahead and check out. And .NET version of the Teams AI Library will be available in NuGet soon, end of November. That's what we have as resources. And finally, I just want to share that if you have any feedback about what we just showed or what's coming, or if you just want to share our experience about Teams Toolkit, Teams AI Library, just you can use this form. This link will direct you to a form. You can fill that out and share your experiences with us. We would love to hear from you and see how your experiences with the Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio, same for Visual Studio Code, and let us know. That's all we have as a content today. Justin, if there's any questions, I guess we have 2 minutes.
Right. That was really awesome. So let me check the chat window whether we have any questions or comment. Yeah, I think the comment is really the good, like the using the environment variables is good for choice for the local development, and they are excited about the how to use the AI library for Teams, something like that. So again, it's really good to see the .NET application development. So Teams app. So thanks for joining us, and I will see you next time around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.